mine. I was raped when I was 20 years old, 17 years ago, so that's aging me right there. When at the time I lived in Las Vegas, and I was out walking at about 1 in the morning, which at Vegas time is like, Boston time is around 10 p.m. Vegas really is an all-night thing. It's not a risky time. It was not a risky place. I was walking behind the coffee house that I always go to. And there's this guy on the side street with his car, and he says, "Hi." And I say hi back, I'm a friendly person. And he grabs me, and he puts me in the car. Now I want to bring it back today about, I want to mention that my story is not like most people's stories, because y'all know if you're here what most people's stories are like. Most people are raped by people they know. Right. Like the tiniest fraction of rapes that happen. And this is part of what threw me so much during the whole thing, was this is a whole bad B-movie script. This is not what fucking happened. But this is what happened. He pulled me into his car, he brought me to his apartment. He tied my wrists behind my back, and he gagged me with tube socks, and he proceeded to rape me. I could give you the full breakdown of that. I don't think you necessarily want it. It lasted for what felt like a really, really long time, but probably was not longer than half an hour to an hour. I did the thing that you hear about, where you sort of leave your body, leave your mind, leave your whatever during this. The only thing that pulled me back was that he said at one point during it, "This is so much fun. I think I'm going to keep you here for a couple of days." And the reason that pulled me back was because my father was coming to town in 2 days. And at that point, I was like, I don't even give a shit what happens to me anymore, but what I care about is that my father is going to come here. He's not going to know what happened to me. He's going to not be able to find me. I am going to be dead in this guy's closet somewhere, and my father will never know what happened. The guy finally finished, ungagged me, and fetched me a Coke, and like I said, this is not the sort of thing that happens, goes to his nightstand, pulls out a gun that at this point, I'm pretty sure it wasn't even loaded, but at that point, you're going to assume. And he says, "I'm really sorry. I know I'm going to hell for this." And so I said, "Why do you think you're going to hell?" And that completely pulled him off his script. So if God forbid you're ever unlucky enough to be in that situation, say something completely off the fucking wall. Because that led to me engaging him in a 3-hour conversation about theology. Because he seriously said, "Well, of course I'm going to hell." I'm like, "Well, what is hell to you?" And that pulled him off course. He told me all about his childhood. He told me all about his history. He told me that he'd just broken up with his girlfriend. He's never done anything like this before. He was just out there. He didn't know what he was doing. I told him a completely fake version of my life. I told him my name was Elizabeth, that I was from New York, that I had a brother. None of these things were true. I didn't want him to have anything more of me than he'd already taken. And I managed to keep everything else of me for myself that night. By the end of it, you can do that, that's fine. By the end of it, he was apologizing to me extensively and wanted to give me a ride home. I said, "No, thank you." He said, "Well, what if somebody else grabs you?" I'm like, I'll be okay. He said, "You just don't want me to know where you live." I said, "That is also true." So I managed to talk him out of giving me a ride home, and I went out the door. I went to the nearest 7-Eleven. I wrote down everything I could think of. I wrote down his make and model of his car. I wrote down what he looked like, what he was wearing, where the apartment was. And I went... And I was very, very silent for a while. My roommate came in and started to make breakfast, because at this point it's 3 hours later, and it's breakfast time. And he looks over at me, and he's like, "Why are you quiet?" Because as my colleagues up here can tell you, including Eric who's going to go next, I am not a quiet person. So me being silent is a sure sign that something is way the hell wrong. So I told him I was raped, and he grabs a knife from the drawer, and he walks me to the hospital. So he gets me running to the guy again. He said, "It's double-bladed knife, illegal in Las Vegas." We got taken away by the cops the minute we walked in there. But it was a nice thought. So we got to the hospital, and I did have evidence collected. And the whole time I had evidence collected, they were finding so much on me, because the guy didn't use a condom. He had left traces on like the corners of my mouth, my wrists, from the socks and everything. And they kept saying, "We've got him, we've got him." And I'm like, I don't want him. Can there just be some way that we don't have him? finished there, they took my clothes. I had to go home on a bus with no underwear because they didn't have underwear to give me. So I'm sitting on the bus all shaved from everything that's gone on that night, and I'm wearing sweatpants, and they're rubbing me exactly the wrong way. And it took me a long, long time to get to the point where I could even talk about it. I had friends who would accompany me to the coffee house, to the grocery store, to everywhere, because they didn't want me to be alone, because this guy recognized me. When he had me in his bed and he was raping me, he realized that he recognized me from the coffee house that I used to go to. So that was a big fear in everybody's mind, is he's going to get her again. And it became such a big fear for me too that I ended up leaving town. I ended up going back home to my parents. The one question, and when I do this I usually have like a 25-minute question and answer period. The one question that I never get, and this is me giving this talk to high school students, college students, cops, ER doctors, nurses, everybody. What do you guys think is the one question that nobody really asks me because they know how fucking inappropriate it is? Who's got that question?
What are we wearing?
Thank you. I have been waiting for that question. I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I don't tell people that when they ask, the few times that they do ask, because it doesn't fucking matter.
Exactly.
It would not have fucking mattered. What I wore had nothing to do with me being raped.
Yeah.
Why was I raped? Because I was in the presence of a rapist.
Yeah.
And here's the thing I'm going to tell you that I never tell anybody during these speeches. And that's what I did for a living at the time of the rape, when I was living in Vegas. Was I was working as a stripper. So thank you. I'd be wearing basically a green rubber band over parts of myself, or I'd be wearing, when I was cocktail waitressing, a G-string, a cut-off tuxedo shirt, and a bow tie and cummerbund. I'd be walking down the street in this all the time with shorts over this, handing out cards for plates. Nobody ever did anything inappropriate on me when I was dressed like that. This has nothing to do with what you are wearing. It has to do with being in the presence of a rapist.